If you're heading to your local grocery store, you may find empty shelves, especially if you're looking for hand sanitizer, disinfectant, and even toilet paper. But that's not the case in other places. Many businesses feeling the pinch are in a prime position to lose revenue. According to the National Retail Federation, coronavirus will have a longer and larger impact on U.S. imports than originally expected. 40% of retailers surveyed are already seeing supply disruptions, and 26% expect to see more. For small business owners like Cindy Floyd and Brandy Brown, that means months before they get products back on the shelves.
I feel like some of our stuff is shipping slower than normal, so we might have missed a little bit of our window for the early spring shoppers. So the items are coming in maybe like a month or two later.
We carry one sock brand, the factory is closed down, and they don't have a time frame.
In business for 40 years, Cindy and Brandy say they never thought a virus would threaten their business.
Fall is really our biggest concern at this point. The stuff that we've been hyping people up for fall that we've already ordered might not get here in time for back to school photos or school pictures.
Brown says small things like buttons, zippers, and textiles are made in China. And while the outbreak is leveling off there and manufacturing is back up and running, it's going to be a game of catch-up.
They've seen in February the lowest manufacturing number in recorded memory. And so right now, their first quarter GDP is probably going to shrink where it was expected to grow 6 or 7%.
Dr. Andrew Root of Regent University's School of Business says the Federal Reserve is trying to get ahead of an economic slowdown.
They do a survey of various businesses, and in their survey, they ask, what is the likelihood of recession in the next 12 months? That survey went from a 20% reading to a 40% reading in a 2-week period. And so the Fed sees business confidence starting to decline, and they're trying to get ahead of that with their interest rate reduction.
It's going to take ingenuity, resources, and support from locals to keep small businesses thriving.
We just hope everybody continues to keep the shopping local because that's what we're depending on now.
The Trump administration is trying to raise funding for the Small Business Low-Interest Loan Program by $250 billion. It's part of the White House's $1 trillion stimulus package designed to help Americans during this crisis. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, we're all concerned about the economy. We're all concerned about an economic slowdown. We're all concerned about the number of people that are currently being laid off. We all face an uncertain future. But today I want us to all just stop down and meditate on a scripture and meditate on this thought. Is our busyness leading to barrenness, where you're not having fruit in your life? And by the fruit, I mean fruit of the Spirit, that love and that joy and that peace. Have we been missing so many Sabbath rests that we no longer even know what it is to truly rest? And are we taking advantage of the time and the opportunity we all have right now to shelter in place, to focus on family and focus on God? Now, there's a chapter in the Gospel of Luke, it's chapter 10, and the first part of that chapter is a very busy chapter. Jesus takes 70 people, he commissions them to go preach the gospel. They go, they preach, they heal the sick, they cast out demons. Jesus just exults over them. He saw Satan fall like lightning. Then he gives us the parable of the Good Samaritan, asks the question, who's the neighbor? Who's going out to the highways and byways to find injured people and help them and bring them back to life and health? And then it ends with a real family scenario. He goes to the house of Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus and Bethany. Here it is in Luke chapter 10, verse 38. Now it happened, as they went, he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister Martha has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. And Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her. let me underline, one thing is needed. And that one thing we all need right now is to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen to him and say, this is my time. I'm just going to separate myself to God. I'm going to have a whole series of Sabbaths right now where I pay attention to him. I'm unable to work. I'm sheltered in place. I'm unable to buy and sell. I'm unable to do all the things I wasn't supposed to do for Sabbaths for years. But now I'm going to take time. I'm going to separate myself. I'm not going to be concerned with much serving. I'm not going to be anxious and worried about the future because I know he has the future. I'm going to sit at his feet, and I want to listen to his word, and I want to get to know him. When you do that, realize the words of Jesus will be true for you. You have now finally chosen the better part. And going forward in your life, remember to do this at least once a week. I encourage people to take as many Sabbaths as you want, because the more time you spend with God, the more fruitful you will be, the more increase you will have. The more you try to make it on your own effort, you'll find frustration, you'll find worry, you'll find lots of trouble. But when you're with God and you're doing it his way, this isn't some excuse for laziness, but it is an excuse to go separate yourself to him. Jesus would do this on a regular basis. And this is why his apostles asked him, teach us how to pray, because they noticed he was going off to pray a lot. He would go off to the mountain alone. He would go by the shore of Galilee alone. He liked to separate himself to God, and he would listen to God's voice, and then he would come back and repeat it. If there's one model for us, it's Jesus. He had a very fruitful life. He had a very fruitful ministry. You can have the same thing if you just follow the same way. So right now, we're all forced to be like Mary. We're all forced to sit at his feet. And instead of looking at it as this is something I'm forced to do, look at it as this is a great privilege. This is a great time where I can be alone with him and I can hear his voice.